sons and 1 daughter with his wife Susan. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Matt Clarke.
Wow, well done. Thank you. I need to find the person that wrote that. That sounded really good. First, let me thank you, Kim. Let me just give a shameless plug for you and your business. If anybody has diabetes or connected to people that do, Kim's and her husband's business, Thrive 365, are doing some great things in the treatment of diabetes. So be sure to go by their booth or talk to them and figure out what they're doing. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, speaking of Boston, I was in a conversation with a new friend maybe about an hour and a half ago, and she asked me, she said, "Tell me about your conversion story. When did you become a Christian?" And I said to her, I said, that's a hard question to answer, but I've always known, growing up in Boston, being a Red Sox fan, the difference between good and evil. And I was raised to hate evil in the Yankees, and so I've kind of been a Christian my whole adult life. But we're not going to talk about that. I need a clicker here. I was asked to give a talk on integrating company culture and faith. How to set policies and procedures within a company to create a healthy culture, and how this helps retain, recruit, train, and engage your employees. And so that's a pretty serious talk. I live in Nashville, and where I live in Nashville, right next to us is a Jewish elementary school. It's a great school, and they take their security pretty seriously. And I've got a friend that actually attends that school, or not my friend does, his son does. I think he's like 12. And for years, he's really struggled with math. And we have another friend that kind of lives in the same unit that we do, who is the headmaster of a local Catholic school. And so we arranged a conversation, and they were talking one day, and the headmaster of the Catholic school was like, "Hey, we've got a really good math program over here, and the times line up pretty well. So if after his school ends, if you'd like to arrange them to come over to our school to get tutored in math, we'd love to have them and see if we can help." So they arranged it, and after a few weeks, it was amazing. His son started doing really good in his math grades. And so my friend asked his son, he said, "Son, what are they doing differently over there? Like, you're doing so good, I'm so proud of you, what's going on?" And well, he said, "Dad, the first day I walked in there, when I saw they nailed that guy to the plus sign, I figured they took math really serious around here, and so I better really buckle down." So I'd say the first step in trying to connect and influence your culture is not to take yourself too seriously. I think a lot of people look at Christian business leaders as too heavenly minded to be any earthly good.
Amen.
And I think that's a mistake. I think we have to attract people into our faith in ways that are light and real and easy, and connect with them. And so as I go through this, I'm going to talk about a few things. And when I think about Churchill Mortgage, the company that I lead, and our policies and procedures around this stuff, there aren't really any. And while there are a lot of big companies out there, we heard the guy from Coca-Cola Consolidated talk last night about his job as kind of the VP of culture, and they've got pastors and chaplains at all of the different plants. Well, most of us are in small business. Most of us don't have budgets to do big things like that, but we do have to be intentional. And so the thought here is that you don't policy culture. You have to live it, and you have to lead it. And that people don't follow procedures. They follow people. I remember recruiting a guy recently. He's a big national head of sales for other large mortgage companies, and when he was in Nashville, we were doing our dog and pony show. He was getting calls from other CEOs from around the country, And he was sharing with me. He was like, yeah, that was this person and that was that person, and they're just telling me, hey, tell me what dirt you want. What dirt do you want to manage? And I said to him, I said, Kelly, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We don't lead dirt. We lead people. And so you have to accept the responsibility to lead people, and you can't abdicate that responsibility to policies and procedures or anybody else in your organization. If that's what you're looking to do, you're going to be an ineffective leader. Kim, you mentioned some of our trips that we've taken over the years, and the first thing I think you have to do to embed a culture into your organization is you have to get in there and live with your teammates. You have to have shared experiences. You have to do things together. You have to serve others together. In this picture, what you'll see is me standing there, the old guy and short guy in the middle. On my right, on the right of me that you're looking at, the guy in the black shirt, that's probably the most productive mortgage originator in the country. Not just in our company, but across the entire country. He's a guy that's got a great family. Him and his wife have lived through cancer, have lived through their teenagers getting pregnant and having babies. And he's there in a trip, this was in Honduras last fall. The guy with his hand on my shoulder, he was a helicopter pilot in the Air Force. in the Army. A guy whose life has been transformed over the last several years after his wife had left him. He found the Lord. He battled back, still battles, and leads one of our offices in Colorado. And then the guy next to him is our leader in one of our branches in Dallas, who at this very moment, in his mind, what he's thinking about is, does he really want to be married anymore, and does he love his wife? And what's he going to do? And how does he go back to work after this when he doubts whether or not he wants to continue to be in his marriage and is afraid because he doesn't want to leave his daughter? And his entire life up to that point, which is why they've had marital problems, is because he had his identity in his work and the numbers that he would produce and the output that he could generate. And he would sacrifice everything to be the most successful person in the company. And you don't learn those things about people. And you can't influence people's lives unless you're willing to have these types of experiences with them and dive into their life where they are. And so how do you do that? How do you set in motion a culture that helps your teammates live better lives? How do you set in motion a culture that helps your teammates discover what it is to follow God? Well, you start by accepting the responsibility that you have to. And so I'm going to start by talking about core convictions. Because as we talked about earlier, the company has values. Every company has a value statement, a mission statement. They probably have a set of things written on a wall somewhere that people walk by and see. And those are useful and they're needed, and you have to set the tone as an organization. But at the end of the day, as we talked about, people follow people. And my challenge to everybody is to write down and establish your own set of personal core convictions and then shout them from the rooftops. And that came to me because if you look at this picture, the guy in the middle, the taller guy with gray hair sitting next to the short guy with gray hair, which is me holding the mic, that's the founder of our company. He started Churchill Mortgage 31 years ago. And he is one of the most giving, loved, polarizing leaders in Nashville, in our entire industry. He's one of Dave Ramsey's very best friends, and he's well connected across the entire country. And when I came in and I start taking on a leadership role 20 years ago and have to stand in the shadows of a man who I really admired, he's been a great mentor to me, but that everybody loved. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you establish your own leadership persona? One of the things that I did coming back from a training like this somewhere maybe about 15 years ago, as I was really struggling with that because I was up on stage, I'm talking to the company, I'm talking to people, I'm trying to do it, and I was really just a shorter, less attractive, less articulate version of Mr. Hardwick. And I didn't feel comfortable in that. So I had to sit down and write down, what am I about? What am I going to put into my leadership? What do I want to embed in the way that I run the company, and not just the company, but my life? And so I sat down and I wrote out my own personal core convictions, and I encourage everybody to do that. Because at the end of the day, again, people follow you. But if they don't know you, and if they don't know what you stand for, if they don't know what's expected of you and them, they're not going to follow. They're going to follow words on a wall, and they'll probably run into it a few times. And so I encourage every single leader in our organization to not just write down a set of core convictions, but work on them and make sure that they're real and they're authentic and that they share them and shout them from the rooftops. Because everybody has these belief systems, but very few people actually have taken stock, written them down, and have worked hard on sharing them. And so this verse I came across as I was preparing for this. Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. And then I've got this John Maxwell. How many of you guys are probably all familiar with John Maxwell? He's got a leadership Bible that I keep on my desk at the office in Nashville, and I flip through it from time to time when I need it. And as I was looking at it the other day, he had written out these little side stories, as a lot of Bibles have, kind of their commentary. And he said, if you look at the book of Matthew, chapters 6 and 7, Jesus right up front sets out his own set of values. And if you study those chapters, you'll find these themes coming out. Do the right thing for the right reasons. Pray God's agenda, not your own. Relationships will make or break you. Prioritize eternal things, not temporal things. Don't sweat the small stuff. Seek God's kingdom first. Judge yourself before you judge others. If you need something, ask. If you have something, give. Stay true to your convictions. Don't wander from the narrow path. And obedience to God is the only foundation for life. I thought those were awesome. And when I think about number 9, stay true to your convictions. How do you stay true to the things that you're not really sure about? How do you stay true to your convictions, and how do you help others do the same if you don't have the ability to communicate what those are? And so I want to talk a minute about the core convictions that I came up with for me. And the wonderful thing is that over time, as I've shared these, and quite frankly, as I've evangelized these to every employee, every partner, every customer that we have the opportunity to share them with, they've really become kind of the underpinning of the corporate culture. I mean, the company itself has its set of values that we've written out, but it's really these core convictions of the leader and every leader's core convictions for their team that drives the culture of that team. And so the first core conviction I came up with was serve others without exception. I fully believe and share all the time that that there is a God. It's not me. He did found college football on the campus of Notre Dame. Praise Jesus. And my calling is to serve others, right? The Bible says your highest and best use is to be in the service of other people. If you want to lead any, you have to be the servant of all. But after talking about this for a few months, I had to add an extension that said without exception. Because I don't like everybody. Some people rub me the wrong way. Some people are jerks. I just can't stand being around them. And I'm sure none of you are that way. You guys all look like great, God-fearing, perfect people. But I'm not. And so I had to remind myself, I don't get to choose who I serve. I get to choose how. Some people need a helping hand. Some people need a hug. Some people need me to just shut up and listen, and some people need a 2x4 up the seat of their pants. And I think that's godly. And so serve others without exception was the first thing that I wrote down, and that's kind of the starting point for all of the rest of them. The second one is to be the hardest working person in the room. And I think that's biblical. There are plenty of verses that I read when I read through the Bible that say the lazy man versus the hardworking man. Right? The lazy man won't even take the time to pick the food up in his hand and lift it to his mouth. Bristles and briars and things grow up in the lazy man's fields. There's no harvest. Heck, before God gave Adam Eve, he gave him a job. Take care of the garden. Go to work. I created this, now go work and take care of it. Hard work is a virtue. Lazy people suck. They just get in the way, and I don't want to be around them. I want to be the hardest working person in the room, and I want to be surrounded by others that want to work hard. And that's the expectation, because that creates great momentum. Whether you're in the office, you're in the mission field, you're doing a service project, you're in the backyard chopping wood, or you're in the gym working out or doing something. If you're going to do it, do it. God gave you the ability to do it, so honor him with your effort. Don't sit around, like they say in the South, fixing to get ready. Ugh. I still don't know what the heck that means. But to me, it's just a lazy person waiting to do something. The third core conviction I talk about is be the expert. Again, if you're going to do something, do it with everything you got. Be an expert at it. Work constantly at your craft. The expectation around our organization is that if you're in a job, you're going to do it extremely well, and you're going to continue to evolve and do it better, or you no longer get the opportunity to keep that job. And I think that's okay. Being the expert means constantly reading. If you go into our office, there are books everywhere. We share books across the organization all the time, things that we want people to be learning, be studying constantly. Right? If you're going to be a great leader, come to things like this. Study leadership. Have the humility to learn from other people that are in your shoes doing things that even though you may think you understand, you can still have a lot to learn. I learned a ton from the session earlier today. But it also means having the humility to surround yourself with people who are better than you. I think the biggest tragedy in most leaders' lives is their lack of confidence to surround themselves with people that know more than they know and can do their job better than they can do. You're the lid to your organization and your team. And the fastest way to lift that lid is to bring people into your organization and on your team that are smarter and better and more equipped than you are. And unfortunately, most people lack the confidence to do that. And even if they do that, they lack the confidence to let those people do what they're supposed to do. So have the humility to surround yourself with people better than you. I've done every job in our company. Thankfully, I was smart enough to hire people that could actually do it well and me get out of their way. And then the last part of being the expert is seeking mentors. You have to find people out there that love and care enough about you to give you the truth. Mike Hardwick, the founder of our company, has been a great mentor to me. He loves me like a son. And in exchange for that, I honor him with giving it everything I got to run that organization. I've got another person that works in our organization that's been a great mentor. His role is to give me the sober truth. Anytime I just need a 2x4 up beside the head, I go to Jim and I give him a problem I'm trying to solve, and he tells me how stupid I am and how dumb that is, and he straightens me out. But you need people in your life. You need that personal board of directors that's willing to help you get through the problems you got to get through. So constantly be learning, surround yourself with people better than you, and seek out mentors that care and love enough about you to give you the truth and guide you on your way. The next core conviction to talk about is leave people better for the encounter. Every opportunity you have to interact with another human being is an opportunity to leave them better off than you found them. Most of the time, it's walking into a restaurant and putting this down, right? We all need a screenectomy. We all have to get our eyes away from the busyness of that stupid gadget that's changed the world and just honor other people, to smile at the waiter or waitress. make eye contact, and make them feel like the most important person at the table. Right? To say thank you. Right? Leaving people better for the encounter in our business is sometimes telling them now's not the right time for you to get a mortgage. Or you might consider a smaller one. Right? We don't really appreciate all the baggage everybody's carrying around. If you went around this room right now, you'd be shocked at the issues and the concerns and the problems that everybody at your table has just beneath the surface. Why make it worse? Why not smile? Give them the time of day. Listen. Talk. Make them feel like the most important person in the room. Leave people better for the encounter. It's a huge theme around our company. And I think, quite frankly, that's what Jesus did. Every interaction you saw Jesus with another person, you saw him stop what he was doing, turn to them, look them in the eye, and offer them something. Where they walked away changed. What a great example. What a great call. The next thing is do the next right thing. It sounds simple, right? Do the next right thing, because I don't know about you, I make plenty of mistakes. We make mistakes in business, we make mistakes in life. You're not perfect, nobody's perfect, no business is perfect, nobody does it right all the time, but what do you do next? That's what matters. And I'll never forget, I was playing golf with my dad one time, and my wife was walking around, and I was shanking it into the woods. I'm a terrible golfer. I like the game. And she made a comment to me, and it was, hit your next best shot. And so I kind of talk about do the next right thing along the same words in the vernacular of golf of hit your next best shot, right? Because when you shank one in the woods, you have a couple of options. You can cheat, just hit another shot. Or you can go over there and you can kick it out, pretend nobody was looking, back in the fairway. Or you can do what I always try to do, which is pull off a Tiger Woods shot through the trees, around the bend, under the windmill, through the valley, into the green, and try to get it all back in one big swing. Or what we should just do is chip out. Get back in the middle of the fairway again, and then hit another shot, and then another shot, and then another shot, and start building some positive momentum. Because life sometimes kicks you where you don't want to be kicked. And you get knocked down, and you have problems. And the language of hitting your next best shot is really healing for a lot of people, because it gives them the freedom to not have to be perfect. It gives them the freedom to accept that where they're at, and that they don't have to get it all back in just one big step. Just take another baby step forward, and another step, and start rebuilding momentum in your life. And so when you make a mistake, shout it from the rooftops, learn from it, try to turn from it and not repeat it, and move on. And when you're in a place you don't want to be, just do the next best thing you know how to do. Don't wallow in pity. Don't be ashamed. Just get up and take a good step forward. The last core conviction I talk about is probably my favorite. And I know around my family and our teams and company that they're tired of hearing me talk about it. But it's, I think, one of the most important things that leaders forget to do is take care of themselves first. Mornings matter. We all feel like we have to get up and do our jobs and take care of our family and take care of our business and run really fast and do all this for all others. Until one day you can't. And one day you crack and you burn out. Or one day you don't have the energy to do what you need to do. There's a reason the airlines say cover your own face first before you help the person next to you. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're really no good for anybody else. And so for me, a great morning routine is essential for me to be the leader that my family requires, that my company requires, that our community requires. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to run out of steam or break. And so for me, a great morning routine looks like this. Every single day, I get up and I read. the first thing I do every day. I read. I read in this Bible. I got several different devotional books that I read through. I don't care what you read. Just read something that nourishes your mind and your heart. I write. I take notes. I've got decades of journals that I hope nobody ever sees. Right? Because writing helps me take those anxious thoughts that I stay awake and toss and turn all night long and take captive those thoughts and put them on paper. I'll write verses and things that I've read. I'll write about what happened yesterday. I'll write about what happened today. You know, I'll write truth. And the hardest person I've learned to be vulnerable in front of is me. And so part of journaling has allowed me to try to practice vulnerability to myself. I wrote just the other day, I was sharing this with one of my leaders that was talking to me about some struggles she was having and how she just didn't feel like she was hitting on all cylinders. I said, you know what, Whitney, let me lift the curtain a little bit. If you could see my journal from just this morning. I said, Lord, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel like I'm doing my best work right now. I need you to reveal to me areas that I need to step up. I think my leadership is just a little bit less than it should be. That's hard to admit. It's hard to say out loud. It's really hard to write down because someone's going to read that stuff. But writing is a real practice in process and vulnerability. And then I pray, meditate. You know, I gotta reset my mind and my heart for gratitude every single morning. It's easy to wake up feeling good and grateful. Man, at the end of the day, sometimes it's really hard to have a grateful heart. And then I exercise every single day. Read, write, pray, exercise. It's written. You're called to take care of it. You know, all those things work together, and it's a funny thing that happens when I give myself time to exercise. I'm processing the things that I read. I'm thinking about the day. I'm getting prepared, and my heart is getting pumping, and I'm starting to get that energy, and I'm starting to get that confidence, and I'm starting to equip myself to lead. And it's got to be every day to me. A lot of people like to work out and do stuff in the afternoon. A lot of people do in the evenings. The only thing I can control in my schedule is what time I wake up. And so if I have a 6 o'clock flight in the morning, I'll get up at 3 so I can knock this stuff out in 30 minutes. I can read, write, and knock off some push-ups and crunches in the closet before a flight at any time of the day. But I committed to doing it. If I have more time, I'll take more time. But I never let myself not do it because I don't have the discipline to recover. So it's a behavior to me. And I kind of summarize my morning routine like this. Every single morning, my job is to fall head over heels in love with my Savior, to fall head over heels in love with my wife. When I read, I get up, I get my books, I sit in bed with a little goofy little headlamp, and I'm that nerd that sits there and I read next to her because there's something about reading next to her in those quiet, tender moments while she's sleeping that draws me closer to her. Fall head over heels in love with my wife and to fall head over heels in love with myself. Because you're called to love your neighbor as yourself. The predicate to that is you have to love yourself. And how do you do that if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not feeding yourself? So those are the core convictions that I came up with that defined how I not just want to lead in the organization, but how I want to live my life. And I evangelize those and I talk about them all the time because I need accountability. I need the organization, I need my family, I need friends, I need them all to hold me accountable to living life in a certain way. And so how do you pour those into your organization? The first thing is you have to realize you are the culture. It's got to fall on you. You can't abdicate that responsibility. You can't policy it. You can't procedure it. People are going to follow you. And so you not just have to recognize that that's you, you have to accept it. And then you have to live by it. And you have to have congruency in your life. One of the things that I had a hard time learning is that I can't be a different person in each area of my life. What I do anywhere is what I do everywhere. How I do anything is how I do everything, especially in this connected world of digitally connected world where your life is exposed to everyone everywhere. And I struggled with this for years. I tried to be this perfect person at work, this perfect person teaching Bible school, this perfect person coaching the kids, leading in the community. I had all this perfect husband over here. I had all these different personas, and none of them ever reconciled with each other. Sometimes I just forgot who I was, and I was never actually a whole person. That problem cost me a job, it cost me a marriage, and it set me back in a lot of different ways over the course of life. And then I came to work with Churchill, and Mr. Hardwick, who I already mentioned, was a great mentor of mine. And I'll never forget my first conversation with him. Even though he's a Yankees fan, I do love the man. And it was all that was on TV back in the 1800s. But he said to me early in that first interview, he said, you know, I can teach you the mortgage business. Because I asked him, I said, look, I'm from the insurance business. I'm from Boston. Well, what makes you think I can come in here and be the CFO of a mortgage company? And he's like, well, I can teach you the mortgage business. I can teach you how to take an application. I can teach you how to process a loan. I can teach you all those things. But what I can't do is take an argumentative person and make him harmonious. I can't take a dishonest person and make him honest. And I can't take somebody who's going to be phony and make him live a life of integrity. And that really struck me. He was the first leader I'd ever worked for that's basically not just celebrated the fact that I got issues, but expected me to live my life out in a consistent manner at work and at home. And once I started doing that and started not having any fear of judgment, I realized that my ability to lead grew. Because the best way you can lead people is to connect with them and be vulnerable. One of our teammates once told me, he said, never trust a leader without a limp. Right? You know those people that walk around acting, looking, dressing perfect everywhere they go, right? He's like, look, I don't trust those people. I trust people that have a limp. I trust people that are willing to expose the fact that they got issues too. And we've got an algorithm that we talk about, which is kind of the algorithm of influence, which is you first must connect with the heart, and you don't do that with being perfect. Then you can challenge and inspire the mind, and then you can influence people. And I think that's a really important thing. As you go out to lead, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. Because everybody's got issues, especially the people you're trying to lead. And the more you do that, the more you expose your own cracks, the more they'll come in and help you fill them. And then you can't run from that. I think about the story of Jonah when God called him to go share the gospel or share God's word to the people of Nineveh, and he didn't want to do it. In fact, he went to the bus station, caught a ticket 2,500 miles in the opposite direction to Tarsus until they threw him overboard, and he was swooped up by a whale and brought back, and God reminded him, you can't run from this, dude. I asked you to go. You're going to go one way or the other. And that's our job. We have to lead. Let me just give you a couple of quick things as I'm getting the timing back that we do at Churchill that you can try to do in your organization to help connect and talk to people. The first thing I already talked about is our core convictions, my core convictions. We have video. I talk to every recruit, every new employee. We shout these from the rooftop so people know what to expect when they come in. I've started a couple of years ago writing to the organization every single morning. Biblical lessons. Things that I've seen, learned, I think the company needs to hear. I get up every morning, it's now part of my morning routine to share a little verse of scripture and wrap it around in a practical, executable way in an email every day. It goes out to about 18,000 people every single day. And it's really proven to be a great way for me to connect with an organization that I don't get to see every day. There was a day I could walk into any office and know everybody by name. Can't do it anymore. So they have to at least know me. We have video calls every single month with all the new teammates that came on over the last month or two. And these aren't preaching calls or us talking about Churchill. These are just round robin conversations. Hey, what's your favorite ice cream and why? Tell me your top 2 movies and what do you love about them. Tell me something you don't want the rest of the people on this call to know about you. And we just laugh and we spend an hour and we just talk and get to know each other, and that connects us with people. We train people through the expert series every 2 weeks. We have a technical training from an expert in the industry that comes in and talks about specifics of the mortgage business, stuff that would bore all of you, but really excites the dorks that do mortgages. And we bring in other speakers every 2 weeks. We have another speaker. This is Andy Andrews. We've engaged with him for the last several years. He does teaching, a video teaching for every employee. We send that out twice a month, and we ask the teams to sit down and watch it together, talk about it. There are questions at the end of it that they have to answer and send in. We do all company meetings once a month, where we bring anybody that's in Brentwood or Nashville that can get there in person. Everybody else is on video, where we talk about stuff. And these are meant to be all kinds of things, from mental health, from business things, from parenting to life, kind of whole person schedule. We just make sure it's really intentional, not just to talk about business things. This actually started maybe 13 years ago as book studies. We brought our leadership team, which is much smaller, together at that time, and once a week we'd sit and we'd go through a book, and you'd read a chapter and we'd come together and talk about it, and read a chapter and you'd come together and talk about it. The whole idea here is you have to be intentional. And you have to put things in place that aren't hard to do. They're just intentional. They're not expensive. Sometimes they just take a little time to really engage your people. And so, kind of at the end of this, the first thing that's really important in terms of growing culture inside of your business is right up front, let them know what to expect. Clarity is kind. If you're attracting talent, as they're coming in, they need to know you. They need to know what to expect. They need to know that if you're a faith-based organization, that's what they're stepping into. They don't have to believe the same thing you believe, right? Because it's a volunteer army. You can't force it, but you have to know that, let them know this is what we do. And you're welcome to join us whether you believe the same way we believe or not. In fact, it's better if they don't, because now we get to expand the kingdom. Everybody is welcome. You have to be an example. We already talked about that. Serving together is really important. You got to live life together. You got to be real. Be authentic. Be broken. It's cool. Live life with a highlighter. I love that, because one of the things that has forced me to do with writing to the company every day is I have to observe better. I have to pay attention to what's going on in the organization. I have to look for things and lessons to learn that are practical, that are experiences that I saw going on in our business or in my life or somebody else's life, that I can relate to a story and drive some teaching through and find some scripture to apply to it. And when people have problems, love. Don't lecture. Love, don't lecture. I'm going to skip the last slide because I'm running out of time. The last slide, I'll put it up. You can write it down. It's just a communication of framework that we teach that y'all might want to learn. It helps us identify and talk about our belief systems. And this is a structure that'll work in any situation. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? How do you do it? What makes you different? Some social proof, and then you gain some influence. And that talk by itself is a little bit longer than I have to wrap things up. But teaching other people how to articulate and communicate what they believe is a real important process in terms of just getting people to understand their own core convictions and how to share them with people and why it has an impact on others. But I wanted to share something I read this morning, and you don't have to hold up your sign anymore. I got you. As I was thinking about this talk this morning, I read, just in my normal process, Psalm chapter 47. And I was convicted to share it with you this morning. So if you don't mind, I'll read it. It says, "Come, everybody, clap your hands, shout to the Lord with joyful praise. For the Lord Most High is awesome. He is the great King of all the earth. He subdues the nations before us, putting our enemies beneath our feet. He chose the promised land as our inheritance, the proud possession of Jacob's descendants who he loves. God has ascended with a mighty shout. The Lord has ascended with trumpets blaring. Sing praises to God, sing praises. Sing praises to our King, sing praises. For God is the King over all the earth. Praise him with a psalm. God reigns above the nations, sitting on his holy throne. The rulers of the world have gathered together with the people of God of Abraham. And this is the part that I was called to share. For all the kings of the earth belong to God, and he is highly honored everywhere. As I thought about this talk and all of you, the message I got this morning are you are kings. And you're called to lead in his kingdom. And he's got you. And so go out and become kings for your teams. And that's it. Questions? Great. Sir.
I found your message very encouraging. I think we can all learn from it. I love your psalm message here too that God put on your heart today. Your morning routine too, I think was very encouraging too.
Well, thank you. You know, it's only encouraging if you're willing to do it. And I don't mean that to be too short, but the reality is we. The sad thing about most of us is that we go to these conferences and we hear a lot of stuff that encourages us and inspires us, and we take lots of notes and we feel really good while we're sitting in the room. And we go out, we don't do crap. We don't do anything, we don't change a thing. What would it mean to your business is if at every single conference you committed to adopting just one thing and really implementing it? Whether that be something I said or somebody else or something you learned or picked up from a conversation, just one thing you made a commitment to implement. Faith without works, trash. You had a question?
I'm just going to ask, you put be an expert, and something that I try to do for myself is not to spread myself too thin, and so I stay so focused at work on the things at work to make myself better for work. Is that something that you would say about yourself, or how would you describe that?
Well, spreading yourself too thin is a real problem for a lot of us. And one of my Achilles' heels is saying yes. Yes, I can do that because I can. Yes, I can do that because I want to. Yes, I can do that because I don't want to let you down. Saying no is probably your most powerful thing in growing as a leader. Because if you want to say yes to good things, you have to say no to everything else. And you don't want to. But guess what? You should. And saying no is a really important part of growing as a leader. And not spreading yourself too thin so you can go deep with what's real. Sir?
Balance.
Balance. It doesn't exist. If you're looking for a balanced life, good luck. Let me know how you figured it out. Yeah, you haven't. It doesn't. I don't believe balance. I don't believe balance is real. I think seasons cause you to be out of balance. There are seasons where you're out of balance with work because you're starting a new business or a new initiative, and you just got to double down, and you got to work 14 hours a day because you got to make the sale, you got to deliver the product, you got to do the books, you got to pay the bills, you got to prepare for, you got to do all the stuff. There are seasons when your family is just a big old-fashioned train wreck. Most seasons, if you've raised kids, there's trains running in every direction, if they're running at all anymore. Well, you get out of balance with them. Marriage? Boy, that's easy. That's 50-50, right? No. I don't think you ever get balance. I think you got to search for harmony. And I think you have to find the ability to articulate, and this is where I think being vulnerable comes into play. Sometimes you're just going to have to tell your team, hey, I'm struggling. My son, he's off the rails. He needs me. My marriage, I'm holding on by a thread today, dude. Can you take care of this for me? Because I'm going to go spend the next 3 days doing this. And sometimes you have to tell your spouse, hey, look, I got to be honest with you. This next 2 weeks, I am in production hell. I'm not going to be around all that much next week. And I'm just asking for your grace up front. So I think it's more harmony than balance. I've never found balance. Maybe for a day or two, but not over time. Any other questions? Ma'am?
When you exercise, how long do you do that every day?
It depends how much time I have, honestly. If I have to get up super early, I can knock out in 15, 20 minutes push-ups and crunches on the floor in the closet or in the hotel room, right? If I have a couple hours, I'll go spend a couple hours in the garage. I used to go to the gym, but I get tired of leaving my wife in the morning. So I just set it up at home so I can spend more time there. I just made the decision that I can't have an excuse. Because where excuses end, breakthroughs happen. And I wanted breakthroughs for my health. Because my family deserves it. And my company deserves it. And so does yours. And so I just decided I can't make excuses anymore. I can't be too busy. Right? If I'm in Honduras, which I've led about 13 trips to Guatemala, Honduras, Haiti, all with teammates, every single morning I find a dirt patch if I have to, and I can do push-ups and crunches or take a run. So you just have to equip yourself to eliminate excuses. And I think it's not just exercise, this is anything you want to do. Right? Do you want it? Do you wish it were true, or do you really want it? If you really want it, eliminate the excuse not to go after it. Until you do that, it's going to be a hope. Hope's not a great strategy. It's real, but I'm not going to bank my health on it. Thank you. What else? Sir?
I wanted to make a statement. I'm going to try to make this into a question in some way.
Do you want the mic? You stood up like you're ready to...
I couldn't see you behind her head, so I thought...
Well, so I'm that short. That's great.
But I would say, I've never run a business. I have pastored churches, and I do ministry in other nations. Everything you said is useful to me. It's useful for life. And the scripture you ended up with was pretty strong. And I don't know that people think very much in terms of what you were implying. But would you relate that to, and they shall reign upon the earth? It's from Romans 5, when it talks about the work of Christ, and the last end of that story is, and they will reign on the earth. Is that what you mean by being king?
You know, you're far more biblically schooled than I am. But I would say that my belief is that we were created for a time such as this. And that God has created us all to become kings. And He's also given us each a unique position to manifest that call in our life. Whether that be in our community, whether that be in our family, whether it be a company, whether it be a country. Is that we are called to reign as kings for His kingdom. And so if that answers your question as a yes, I'm going to say yes.
I hear you.
Amen. Ma'am.
If you present your core convictions to your staff, your team,
Mm-hmm.
and let's just say some individuals on the team don't necessarily have those same convictions,
Awesome.
how do you elevate or how do you empower?
Listen, you get to be you, right? I don't want them to have the same convictions as I do. But they're not going to be able to judge me for mine. Right? I know what I believe, and I'm not ashamed of it. And at some point, if I evangelize that enough, and if they're righteous and they're good, then people will slowly begin to adopt them, or at least accept them, as they create their own core convictions. We don't need a bunch of mats running around. The world would fall apart quick. But we need people that are confident enough of themselves and how God created them to be beautiful, to live out what they believe. And the other part of that really is the world will tell you to believe a whole lot of garbage, right? We live in a world that disseminates trash like nothing in history. And if you let that phone tell you what to believe, good luck. Let me know how that works for you. So that's why I think it's so important to understand what you believe. It doesn't have to be what I believe, and we can still work together. I work with a lot of people that believe very different than I do. And that's good. You need that healthy collision in life. You have to be in search of the best that can be done, not just the best that you know how. Because the best that you know how has a limit. The best that can be done doesn't, which means you have to stay open to other people's thoughts and beliefs. But you got to be strong enough in your own convictions to stay on the road that God called you to be on and not stray from it. Ma'am.
So one of the things that I'm struggling with is our staff is spread out across 9 different states.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's one person in that state working out of their home.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of fostering culture, you have very little proximal contact. Right? You might see each other twice a year, you might email a lot, but but Zoom is not a touch and feel,
No.
right? And so speak more into not only the volume of employees, but for those for whom you have very little contact, how you create a deep relationship.
Yeah, that's a really good problem to solve, right? Because like you, our team is spread all around the country. About 1,000 people all over the country. We have about 150 in Nashville. That's our largest group, but most of them, people working out of their homes, people working out of small locations, people working over branches. And so if you go back to the presentation where I talked about the various things we do to connect, does this still work? These things, maybe I'm not equipped to be a clicker. Okay, these are some of the things we start with. We do write every day. Everybody has my cell phone. I do random phone calls. I do a lot of video. I'll go through different roles of employees and I'll just cut them a quick video. Hey, just want to let you know I saw your numbers this month. It's unbelievable how you're doing. I'm so proud of you. Hey, how's that family thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago going? Click send. I'll walk around the building for an hour and record 20 videos to just random employees that have all their cell phones. That's one of the things I make sure I do, is I stay in communication with them. We write, we do the Zoom calls to make sure that we know. We do random check-ins. I invited people just 2 mornings ago to hey, let's just 10 of you. I just want to talk to you. And so they're all company meetings. You travel a lot. You get in front of people. You share your beliefs. There's no silver bullet. It's a combination of a bunch of intentional touch points that you just have to do, especially in this world where people are remote. You got to find them where they're at.
Thank you, Matt.
Time's up.
Time for another hour.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.